good. I'm good, man.
What's going on, fam?
Nothing much, man. Just living life,
Yeah.
just elevating,
Mm-hmm.
trying my best to be a better me.
Oh yeah.
What's happening on your side?
Nah, still the vibe,
Mm.
still hustling.
Yeah,
As they say, we're hustling.
yeah,
Yeah. And things have been different. Things have been different.
definitely.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah. So, if this was to be you interviewing yourself, what
Okay.
would your first question be?
I feel like, yeah, the first question would actually be like, how's life in general,
Yeah.
and
And how would you answer that?
definitely be like, wasn't what I was expecting,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel like as a teenager, you grow up, you have this vision of yourself, you have this vision of what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And majority of the time, I'm not gonna lie to you, you accomplish it.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there's a lot of speed bumps on the way that you're not prepared for,
Yeah.
you know. And those speed bumps, when you face it, it's
Mm.
all cool.
Yeah.
You face it head on,
Mm.
but I feel like it's the after effect
Mm.
for me. You know what I'm talking about?
What made you like go back to your teenage years
Hmm.
in just your thinking? Yeah.
Definitely when you spend time and you think about what you thought you would be at this
Mm.
current moment,
Yeah.
you think back to your teenage years and you're like, oh,
Mm.
snap, okay. When I
Mm.
was 17, when I was 14, what did I
Yeah.
say I was going to be?
Mm.
And especially at that time, you kind of like try and like, connect the dots,
Yeah.
You're like, okay, cool. When I was 14, I said I was going to be what? Where am I at now?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not gonna lie to you. Like at the end of the day, as much as you can try and get yourself in this path of like I need to accomplish everything and so forth,
Yeah.
I want to speak out there to somebody who's maybe going through what I'm going through right now.
Mm.
That it's not a rough patch. Like it's not the end of the road.
Yeah.
You understand? Like yes, you can plan things, but not all things come as planned. But as long as you keep on pushing, you know.
Do you think there's ever a better way for us, especially for us people of color,
Mm.
in do you think we could ever see ourselves in a space where we feel like success would be our dreams?
Mm.
Um, I don't know how to put the question together, but something along those lines of do you think our dreams can we make our dreams come true as a person of color?
Um, Let me be honest.
Mm.
From somebody who came from a very disadvantaged background,
Yeah, yeah.
I may call it disadvantage,
Mm.
but I had multiple people around me to uplift
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
including yourself.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
you as my youth pastor who turned into a big brother, you
Mm.
understand. You've uplifted me in so many ways that I can't like,
Yeah.
describe, you understand.
Mm.
So I came from a very disadvantaged background.
Mm.
You understand what I'm talking about. So I can say that you get into a game that is very unfair,
Yeah.
and I
Mm.
feel like that's majority of black people in this country, you know.
Mm.
And to be honest with you, a white boy compared to a black boy,
Yeah.
you know, two different standards.
Mm.
But at the very same time, you still get a white boy who has the same disadvantages as a black boy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Where I'm currently staying right now,
yeah. Mm.
it's a place called Denver.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you see a lot of white poverty,
yeah, yeah.
and that's something I'm not used to.
Mm.
Growing up in a very privileged neighborhood
Yeah,
where you see that
yeah,
now majority of white people are the ones who are striving,
yeah. Mm.
and then you get to a neighborhood where you're like, you meet a white boy and you're like, bruh, we're on the same level, bro. You understand what I
Yeah.
mean? I may even be doing better than him,
Mm. Mm.
but the case is that's like maybe 2%. I don't have the facts on that, but
Mm.
that's like 2% of the country or 0.5%.
Do you think it's um a lack of skill or knowledge, or
Mhm.
could it be that we're just in a space where we are just disadvantaged?
I feel like we're in a space that we disadvantaged. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I'm not gonna say I'm gonna blame our parents, but
Yeah.
our parents as well,
Mm,
they come from very disadvantaged backgrounds.
mm,
They don't have that knowledge to pass on to us in a certain manner. You understand what I'm talking about?
mm.
They may pass on the knowledge of Christianity,
Yeah.
you know, just being a good citizen in the
Mm,
world, you know, but there's certain aspects that you need that some white parents do have, you
mm.
understand?
Yeah, yeah,
Where I was having a conversation with a friend of mine not so long ago talking about the education system.
yeah,
I felt
yeah.
like our teachers failed us, you know, because
Okay.
there's certain aspects that should have been embedded in us from the get
Mm,
go in
mm.
terms of what career we're going into with the subjects that we have.
Not even that though. I think our system, our education system, should even take us to a point where um, it should take us to a point where we even have the knowledge of doing things such as our taxes. I struggled
Mhm.
to do my taxes when I first started. I thought like this is like a nightmare, like it's alien work,
I haven't even got into that point,
I felt
so
like I was doing some NASA work,
uh,
and those are things that I feel like our 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 education system needs to look at and change, because we need to be building people for who they are going to be after school. Not a facade. We're not creating a facade. It's like when you look at the when you look at life orientation, LO,
mm.
just to look at it, the, the stuff that you learn there, actually most of them don't help you when you.
I will use the words useless in a matter of
Yeah,
saying,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
you know. So I'm like, okay, so where are we going with this? Or what do we want? Are we trying to get our children to succeed and become better citizens, or are we trying to
Mm,
create them into becoming the lack of a better term, the criminals that they become,
mm,
because now everything they do, have they learned the right values, they learned the right lessons, the right stuff on in their life orientation, because it's about life, it's orientating your life, you're
mm,
changing your life,
exactly.
so why aren't we giving them something that's going to change their way of thinking, their lives? So yeah.
Exactly. That was the point I was making exactly
Mm,
because I feel like we came to a conclusion because with our conversation, right,
mm.
we don't like to like just point out the problem.
Yeah,
You know, we
yeah.
like to point out the problem, but as the person who pointed out the problem,
Mm.
try come up with the solution. You
Yeah, yeah,
understand?
yeah, yeah.
And the solution that I came up with was a basic example.
Mm.
My career path is mechanical engineering right now,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I felt like only as soon as I got like a job opportunity, I understood the different varieties that I could go into with
Yeah,
mechanical
yeah,
engineering.
yeah,
And I felt like the education system failed me
yeah,
because that should be something that we should be learning from the get go, from grade 10 to grade 12, for example.
yeah, yeah,
Grade
yeah.
10, maybe 2 weeks. 2 weeks is not enough, you
Mm,
know, like
mm,
maybe a week in the beginning of each term
yeah.
as you introduce a new topic.
Mm, mm,
Touch on the basis of, okay, there's diesel mechanic,
mm,
there's
mm,
a mechanical fitter, there's
mm.
a boiler maker, and
Yeah,
so forth and so
yeah.
forth. But obviously, that wasn't introduced to us in high school.
Mm,
You
mm,
understand? And yes, I understand. Maybe they give it to us to be like, okay, cool. You need to be the one to go and do your studying and your education and
mm.
you understand, like
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to me, you know.
Mm,
Introduce it to us, let us understand exactly with this subject that I'm taking right now,
yeah.
what is it that I'm getting into?
Okay.
You
Okay. Yeah,
understand?
yeah, yeah.
So that's the first basis of it all. That was like the solution to the problem that I was facing, you know,
Yeah.
that I felt like the teachers failed us, you
Mm,
know. And it goes down with the educational system as well.
mm,
The subjects that we have, I can double back to what you mentioned about
mm.
crime, you
Yeah.
know, where a person will fall into crime.
Mm,
I feel like the subjects that we get given from the get go,
mm.
you have so many people who are so initiative, you know, their attention span goes beyond what you can even imagine.
Yeah.
And then you give them such boring subjects.
You know,
You
not
understand?
even the boring subjects, but you teach them the bare minimum.
Exactly. Yeah.
We look at kids in places like there's this one quote where people normally put like on I've seen it on Twitter a lot, on social media a lot, where they talk about like the children in China, like children in Africa, we're busy learning about the certain types of the body of a grasshopper.
Mm.
Yet children in China are learning how to build apps, or build other things, and at that age group, most kids in Asia are learning how to do like amazing things. And but that age here in Africa, we learning how to know what the foot of a grasshopper is, and I'm like, how is that gonna help me in my life tomorrow?
It,
Like I
the
see
time
it, there it
wasted.
is, then
Yeah.
what? You know, so it's time wasting, and I feel like we need to find ourselves in a space where we learn certain things. When you look at our Caucasian brothers and sisters, where you find like even with the children, the parents are already teaching their kids
Mm.
how to save money, how to handle their money, things like that. And
But not to disturb you, right? Like,
yeah,
not to say that there's no black parent out there that teaches their children
yeah, yeah,
financial
yeah. No, no, no,
literacy,
no. Facts,
but
facts.
majority of the black
Yeah.
community does not know how to conduct themselves that way in
Mm,
teaching people like, okay, they children, how are you gonna save? How do you spend your money and so
yeah.
forth?
And I know it's like some parents don't actually know. They're not used to
And
it.
it's not their fault.
It's
You
not their
understand?
fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, then you find um, that our teachers do know, and they could
Mm,
be that person that teaches us and says, "Hey, listen, this is how you do things.
mm,
This is what you need to do." Be adventurous as a teacher, so that your children as well will not only just learn the subject, but learn the importance of life in that subject. You know what
exactly.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, I do agree. I do concur with you
Yeah.
there. And
Definitely.
and for you, life, because we first met. I think it was 2017.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 2016, because I came the previous year
Yeah.
to
Oh,
do the
yes.
dance.
For
Yeah,
the
yeah,
dance challenge
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
actually 2016. Yeah. I
Yeah,
remember.
and
Yeah.
then 2017 we met, and where I met you was in a space where you were in the church,
Exactly.
and yeah, so um, you grew up, and like everyone else, we all kind of get distant from the church. How has life been? What kind of complications? I
Mm.
think
Complications.
no complicate. Where you complicate?
Yeah.
English is running away. But what kind of deep conversations have you been having, contemplating? Oh yeah, is it
Contemplations. Yeah.
contemplations? Yes,
Okay.
that's what
Yeah.
I wanted to say. No, but
Okay.
what kind of deep conversations have you been having in your mind? Um, Being that person that has been in the church for a long time as a young person, and then now you're getting into adulthood, and um, most likely you've kind of like drawn far away from the church, but
Mhm.
even with our conversations, we've been talking about like how you've kind of transformed into the person that you kind of becoming.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like, what kind of conversations have you had within yourself in that space?
I've had quite a few
What do you like? Yeah,
conversations. Yeah. I've
yeah,
had I've had plenty,
mm,
and I feel like there's so many things that you are not prepared to go through in life. You
yeah,
understand? And
yeah,
on top of that, I feel like something that a lot of people do know and people don't know
mm,
is that I was raised by a single mother, you know.
yeah, yeah,
So there's certain aspects in life that needs like that father figure,
yeah, yeah.
for you to be able to face certain challenges in life,
Mm,
but not all the time at
mm,
the end of the day, where a father can tell you exactly what to do in
okay.
certain situations in life.
Mm,
So for me, what I can begin with is, as you mentioned, I grew up in a church,
mm,
you know. At the very beginning, I never understood it.
mm,
Raised by a single mother, she's a church goer. She found Christ in the most difficult time in her life,
yeah,
And I remember times where I didn't even want to go to church, and my mom, a black household, man. Like, hey, you
yeah.
going to church,
Whether you like it or you don't,
whether
you
you like it or
go.
not, you going,
Yeah.
And I'd never understand it,
Mm.
until we moved to Pretoria, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And when we got to Pretoria, we didn't have a church to go to. We used to go to
Mm.
our old church, and it used to
Mm.
be like a travel, bro, because from
Mm.
Pretoria to Joburg, it's quite a distance.
Yeah, yeah.
Until a friend of my mother's introduced us to a church called Mystery Methodist.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I remember the first time, this is such a funny story, man.
Mm.
They directed us to where we need to go, right? And a boy being a boy, no, mom, I'm not gonna go with you. I'm gonna go on myself. I'm out here with my scooter and stuff.
Yeah.
And these two churches where it's at, I go to Doctor Deo.
Dr.
I go
Day.
to
Yeah,
Doctor
yeah,
Deo, bro, and that's like an Afrikaans church,
yeah.
bro. And not gonna lie to you, Afrikaans really, it's not my stronghold.
Yeah.
I get to Doctor Deo and I'm confused because I don't see my mom.
Yeah.
After Sunday school, I went to Sunday school and everything, and I feel like I appreciate them for accommodating me
Yeah,
that
yeah,
Sunday
yeah.
service because they didn't even speak Afrikaans, bro, and I could see the confusion around everybody. Like, since when do we speak English? So they speak in English, and it was a great church. I'm not gonna lie to you. And then when I get home, my mom thinks, nah, this little boy dodged, man.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. I told her I was at the other church and so forth. But the first time I got there, I remember just like getting this comfort, man, that was so
Mm.
different to the church I was at,
Yeah,
And ever since then, I've been going to that church and so forth until my teenage years.
yeah.
I get to my teenage years, and I remember just going to this night service, and the
Mm.
current pastor there, which was Jean, you know,
Mm.
I remember she comes to me as we're praying at the front, and she asked if I gave my life to Christ, and I was like, I didn't even understand the question at the moment, and I was
Mm.
like, no, I didn't, and I gave my life to Christ on that spot, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And I could just remember this energy just running through me, man. Like, I will
Mm.
never forget it. Walking home and just feeling this happiness within me,
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
this light
Mm.
feeling, like weight's been taken off me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then ever since then, I kind of understood it. I never understood it. I'm like, nah, man. Like, why is it that you need to go to church every Sunday until you yourself give your life to Christ and you understand the Holy Spirit working through you
Yeah.
and you having to do what it needs to be done in that certain
Mm.
moment? You understand?
Mm.
Going on to being confirmed and so forth.
Yeah.
So
And how was that confirmation journey as well for you? Like, what were your takeaways or take homes from that journey?
what I can say on my side is it's something I wasn't expecting
Mm.
because I feel like what I can advise the church to do is more education, the same as the education system. Try and introduce what confirmation is really about from a very young age,
Mm.
because
Mm.
I know for a fact I had people I looked up to before me who got
Yeah.
confirmed, and I was like, oh man,
Yeah,
I'm trying to
yeah,
do
yeah,
that,
yeah.
but not really understanding what it's all about until
Mm.
you get into it.
Mm.
And when you get into it, you're like, snap.
This is what it's
Yeah,
about.
like I
Yeah.
wasn't prepared for this,
Yeah.
and it teaches you bro, like it teaches you so much,
Yeah.
and what I took from it is basically understanding your relationship with God.
Mm.
That's
Mm.
just the basis of it, what I can
Mm.
say.
Mm.
Understanding your relationship with God and how you communicate with him, because they teach you so many different things that you can do in life, where
Yeah.
prayer, quiet time, so
Mm.
many things that you take away from it.
Mm.
And not just that, leadership in general.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
come into it as this teen who believes that I can be a leader, and then you
Mm.
truly understand, okay, like, no, but this is what a leader really is.
Mm.
You got to lead by example.
Yeah.
Certain things you say will always be listened to by someone who's younger than you
Yeah.
understand?
Yeah.
And then there's also that thing where during the confirmation journey, you have to join the holiday club.
Yeah.
And then you learn how to deal with so many kids that are so like way younger than you.
Different
You
characters and
understand? And
yeah,
they
yeah,
look up to you, man. Like
yeah.
you come the next year as a leader in holiday club, and these people will remember you You understand? And it
yeah,
kind of like reminds you, like, bro, like if this little kid can like look up to me and remember me like from a year ago, imagine somebody I interact with in just a normal life, you know?
yeah,
So
yeah.
I took that away from Holiday Club, like I'm not Holiday Club, sorry, from confirmation. Yeah. I took that from confirmation that it's not just about me. It's about the relationship that you build not only with God but with other people around you, you know, to become that Christian that everybody obviously knows. You understand?
Love the Lord your God with all your heart and your
So
strength, all your
exactly.
soul, and at the same time love your neighbor as you love
Love
yourself.
yourself, you know.
I feel you, man.
Definitely, yeah.
And then with everything that happened in your life, you know, where do you see God at the moment? What role do you think he plays at the moment?
I was about to get into
role?
that, yeah. I was about to get into that. Like, as soon as confirmation is over, that's like I'm 16 at the moment. You know, I'm at the peak of my teen years, you know. I haven't faced the temptations, bro. And the temptations are still about to come, you know, peer pressure, like name it, you understand? So as soon as that is over, now I'm getting to this peak years of my teenage years. And now what I practiced in confirmation should come into effect right now, you know? And I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I failed, you know. And as a human being, as a child of God, you will sin, you will fail in so many things. But what matters most is coming back to the Lord and making sure that you repent, you know, making sure you understand that no, I've sinned, I've done wrong. What is it that I need to change within myself in order for me to continue in my journey, you know? And I feel like God has played such a pivotal like item in my life, man. I've had such difficult times in my life where I turn to God, I pray, he answers my prayers, and you look at this and you're just like, wow, like really? Like, is this really who I am right now? Because
is this really you, God?
you know, like, because out of all the tribes and tribulations that I've faced, man, what I can say is like, I will never trade my life to become this person who I wish I was, you know. I'll always be who I am now, because I wouldn't be sitting in this moment right now with you. If ever I decided to even change the single moment of saying no or yes to somebody. We understand.
Yes. So sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
What role do you think then Christianity plays in a young person's space, like in a young person's life? What role, looking at your life as a teenager, and then you come to this life now as an adult, and understanding what you've gone through and all the things that you've done, and all, what role do you think being a Christian plays in the life of a young person?
It plays such it's a great role, man. I feel like as every little kid, teenager, whatever you may call it, young adult, you know, I feel like even if your parents are not Christian, you know, take that step in your life to be like, okay, let me experience something I've never experienced, because you never know, you know. Because I've heard like multiple stories of atheists turning into Christian and so forth, you know. And not to play devil's advocate or whatever the case you may call it, right? But you also have our Christian brothers who grew up as Christians their whole life, who turn into different like be like, no, Christian is not for me, you understand? So that's what I'm trying to like put out there, like as a young adult, man, put yourself out there, try and experience things that you don't know about, because you never know, you know. So I feel like as a young adult, like giving your life to Christ is such a pivotal moment in your life, you know, because there's so many temptations we face. Young adults out there will know. There's parties you go to, there's peer pressure you deal with, there's drugs, there's alcohol, and so forth. And not to speak on alcohol badly, you know, alcohol is in the Bible. You understand what I'm talking about? But it's how you consume it. You understand? And the problem is, you'll have so many young adults who look up to their fellow youth members and believe that is the right way to do it. Someone is passed out drunk at a party and you're like, oh my gosh, that seems, you
That's the
understand.
life, yeah.
But try and think back to family gatherings, for example.
Yeah.
You'll see your father or your uncle who's having a few beers and he's completely normal. You understand what I'm talking about? Maybe that cup of wine or whatever the case may be. So it's about understanding what Christianity really does to you, because it's not just your relationship with God, but how you live your life.
Yeah.
You understand? So I feel like it's a very important thing in a young adult's life to be able to get through all those temptations. Not to say that it ends at your teenage years.
Yeah.
You continue with so many temptations in life, you know, and
It's just part of life.
if you learn how to deal with it from a young age, it gets installed into your mind and you understand exactly how to handle yourself in the future, you know? Yeah.
Okay. And then now, how do you find yourself in a space where you're like, you know what, I've been through this, I've done that, I've been busy in the streets, and now
Yeah,
you're
it's
on that
a tough
level.
one. It's a tough one.
You're on that
Yeah.
street level, bro.
Yeah.
So you now like, okay, you know what, I'm done. Let me now focus on a different type of lifestyle.
Okay.
What got you to that point?
Where I turned from Christ and decided to join something else in a matter of speaking.
No. Like where you actually like are telling yourself, you know what, now I'm at this point where I don't want to do this anymore. I now want to just do this.
Focus on
my life, and
okay,
my life is
I understand. Yeah.
Christ's will and Christian's will.
I feel like a lot of situations in life can really get you to that point. You know, for me specifically, to cut the story short before I get into it, is near death. You know,
Yeah.
that near death experience will really have you sit with yourself and be like, yo, man, like, are we continuing with this? You know, like, is this really what you want to do with your life? You understand? Yeah, that's like one of it, you know?
Yeah.
But to really like rewind a little bit, after confirmation and everything, temptations hit. We all know when you get to that point in life where parties are one of the biggest things in high school. You understand? And then you get to experience this different life. You understand? This life that you were taught against, number one. We always have our parents telling us about all of these things that we shouldn't do. And you as a teenager, obviously being rebellious, you're like, nah, man, what do they know? It's my life. You understand? You understand what I'm talking about, dog? And I feel like one thing I've learned is that I shouldn't put a blame on anything, but it's something that it's something I can say kind of makes me understand why I made the decisions I made, you know, because going back to what we began with, the disadvantagedness of a black boy, you know, that being disadvantaged at the end of the day, you try and push yourself in situations that you shouldn't put yourself into. Growing up around very rich people, you understand, and you being a son of a domestic worker, for example, you know, for the longest time, I personally was ashamed of that. To be honest with you, I was ashamed of that, and that caused me to lead down a very dark path, you know, and that path led to me stealing and doing all of these things that I shouldn't have been doing at the end of the day, because now I'm keeping up with this image of, yo, man, I said I got a PSP, bro, you know, and then now you gotta do other things, bro, and it's not the one, you know. So being from a very disadvantaged background, you put yourself in situations where you shouldn't put yourself into. And the thing is, each person is different. There's so many kids out there, bro, whose parents were domestic workers and they didn't do the things that I did. So I'm not trying to justify the fact that, no, it's because, you know, you understand. So what I can say is, from what I've experienced, right, I put myself in very difficult situations where God himself is the one who took me out of that. You know? I put myself in that situation, and to think about it right now, I think back to it and I'm like, thank God. Thank God, because I would ask myself the question, like, why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
You get to a point where you get to a near-death experience and you're like, what would my mom be feeling right now?
Just thinking about that.
All those decisions I was making was so selfish at the end of the day, because I'm making this decision like, yo, bro, they say only live once. You know, you only live once, bro. Like you and your teens, you're a young adult, like go all out. And then you don't stop to think like, okay, cool, like how does this affect the people who love me?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I've seen how my decisions have affected the people who love me, you know? And that's what really makes you take a step back, reflect, and you're like, hey, yo, man, like, what is it that I'm doing with my life right now? You know, do I want to continue down this path, or do I want to create something much better for myself?
Yeah.
You understand? And I got to that point where I had to sit with myself, pray, and speak to God. First of all, thank Him for the situations that He's taken me out of.
Yeah.
Because I've put myself in really dark situations, man. And I thank God that He was able to take me out of that and give me the mindset to be able to reset, you know. And that's another thing I want to talk about, is like, resetting is nothing to be ashamed of. Restarting is nothing to be ashamed of, you know, because I believe a lot of people just have this mindset from the very get-go that you should have everything figured out. From when you get out of high school, you should go to university, get a job, make a family, and so forth. But nobody talks about the trials and tribulations in between those stages. You know, let's not even talk about university, man. So many situations in university can really get you off track. You know, failing, like not concentrating in class, like, you know,
The partying, you know.
Let's not even get to the partying,
Jolo,
man. You understand, relationships as well, you know, can really take you off the road, and you've lost track of who you are, you know. And what is important is, even if you lose track of who you are, man, just remember your relationship with God. You know, you can shift away from Christianity for a while, but you can always come back, because God comes back and He welcomes you with open arms, you know. And to end off what answering your question, is another pivotal moment of what caused me to make that huge shift, right? Is staying away from church. During that period, I reflected and I understood that, hey, yo, man, why did you go off track so much, man? And I realized, man, like, I didn't go to church every Sunday anymore, you know? I didn't go to youth on Fridays anymore, because one moment was, I'm too old for youth now. You understand what I mean, dog? So another thing that I can point out to the church is that I feel like, yes, you have youth every Friday for young teens. You understand? But try and put something out there for young adults as well.
No, there is.
Is there
something? Yeah, there is.
Okay.
It's just at that point there weren't, like I remember that time there was one of the things that was very difficult was that as most of the young adults in the area we were in, most of them move out and go to varsity and stay at varsity, and then they find that it's expensive for them to move back.
I understand
to midstream. So it was quite a difficult space where young adults could be there and could not be there. But then now there is like a young adults group that's going, and you know, things changed. Some of the guys ended up getting to a point where they're like, no, res life is more expensive than home life, so they have to stay home and travel to varsity.
To varsity, I've always seen that, heard it,
So it's either they out of the city or they are driving to varsity. So that was like the things that they would choose, or they're commuting to varsity.
Right.
So every space does have that, and it's just that whole idea of that a lot of them were going to university, so it was difficult to get them together.
All right.
And it's always difficult. And once you start something, you need to be consistent, especially when it comes to young adults. You need to be constantly doing something, you know.
Because we're constantly changing, man.
Yeah.
Young adults are always changing. One moment you have this side hustle, one moment you're like, nah, I actually want to do this. One moment,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. And that's the thing, is that within our community as well as young adults, it's looked down upon, you know, because it seems as if you haven't had it figured out, you know.
Yeah.
Some people are gonna have it figured out, but some young adults are always gonna be like, okay, let me try this out, you know, let me try this out, you know. And that's why I agree with your point that like young adults are constantly changing, so they really need to
Yeah.
keep up, you know.
Yeah,
Like
you need to keep up and need to be consistent with having a group every week, you know. So it's one of the things that's very challenging about being in ministry, and you know, sometimes you have to play along and try to play towards this type of sound, and if you were a person that dances, you know, when you dance to a certain sound, there's a certain way you dance.
exactly.
So, you know, so with the life of ministry as well, you know, if you get to a place where there is a big ministry that's like youth ministry, you know, you fit into it and you make that grow. And then you get to a point where, you know, even the young adults are feeling like, okay, they really need something. You start something, continue doing it, you know.
All right.
And yeah, so, but I do get what you're saying when you say, you know, you love the churches. Of course, there's some churches that actually do not have that ministry
Exactly.
of young
And
adults, yeah.
that's the point I'm making really is I struggled to find a church when I moved away from the church that I basically grew up in, if you understand what I'm talking about. Relocating is a whole different story. And then you get to a area where it's like a black majority church that is completely different to, I could say, a majority white church. You understand? Those are two different systems. You understand? And I feel like, yes, don't get me wrong, they do have youth, they do have Sunday school, and etc. But it's completely different. You understand? So getting to a place where you don't really feel as free as you were in your previous church, it's very difficult for you to be able to tap in. You know? And I feel like that's exactly the reason why a lot of young adults, when they move to varsity and so forth, will astray from God, you know? Because now you need to find a new church. You find that new church, but it's not hitting the same as the one back home, you know?
That's true.
And if you're lucky, you actually find a church that is even better. You understand?
True that,
You check. So that's what I'm saying. Like, as a church community overall, I feel like a lot of these churches need to look internally and try and figure out exactly what it is that they can provide, not only for their current members, but for newcomers as well. You know, because with the world that we live in, there's constant change. There's constant relocation and so forth. What is it that you can do as a church that can kind of, like, you know, attract new members to come to your church and even stay in it, you know?
Do you think it's about the attraction of members, or could it be the attraction of lost souls?
I understand. Okay, you've got a point there, because as soon as you have this model where you just focus on let's get new members, you have problems, or you have all of these showboating churches out there that, you know, it's all about the money and how many people are in my church rather than the word of God, you know. But it's a case where you need to be able to draw between the lines, you know, where you need to try and figure out exactly what it is that you're providing for the people. You know very well that you've got one pastor. Maybe the change could be adding another pastor that can come in, you know. Maybe level up, let your youth pastor do a few sermons. We understand, because he's a qualified person to be able to do that, right? You know, so that could be a solution as well, you know. From my point of view, right, at the end of the day, when you get to a lot of other churches that I've been to, you're not going to connect, you know, especially coming from a white church, going to a black church that's majority of the praise and worship is in Zulu, Pedi. You understand what I'm talking about, bro? You grew up singing in English, you know. Now you need to go to a church where you need to speak in vernac.
You need to find God in vernac, man. Gotta find find him in Venet.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I've tried, man. I've tried, and I've been to. Thanks to you, and thanks to. I'm not so sure if I can mention her, Ilza, right? Yeah. Thanks to Ilza as well, who was my previous youth leader, right?
Yeah.
She used to put me in programs for youth leaders. You yourself as well, where we go on youth camps and so forth. Where you were able to interact with different kinds of churches. You understand? If I'm not mistaken, it was like the youth summit or something where you'd go to around April, somewhere there where you'd spend a weekend and you get to like actually experience the different Methodist church. You know? And to be honest, it is not like I never knew it, but obviously it's like it's a bit of a shock where, oh, okay, cool, here's you understand what I mean? Like sasakula lana, we don't praise and worship. Iskupu lana, thinking, you understand? So it's very different, you know, and I believe that more of those things should actually be put out there within, let me speak in the Methodist space, you know, because unfortunately, only if you were considered a youth leader, you could get to experience that. Imagine how many other kids, if you gave them the opportunity to experience that, will be like, oh, wow, like there's more to praise and worship than just English worship, you know.
There's different ways, and that's nice. I like that. I like that thinking, and I feel like yes, we kind of tend to do a disservice to ourselves as Christians when we look at that aspect, especially the aspect of praise and worship, where we kind of have so many things that we're so used to doing these things that traditionally like that, you know. This is how tradition is. You cannot do things in such a manner because they will not,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's how the church has always been, you know. Do this, and in my head I'm like, first things first. There's a song that I like. I just forgot the name of the song. His name is Bizzle.
Okay.
You know, he talks about let me just try and check here. Is the album? So Bizzle, Nobody's Mascot, and that's the album's name. It's called Nobody's Mascot. And which song was it, by the way? But it's on that album where he speaks about like he speaks about how we are so fixated in like what do people wear when they go to church, you know, and like these people who've been asking like, yo, bro, like, because he's American, and he's from LA, so they're like, yo, why do you dress up like a gangbanger, you know, or why do you dress up like a gangster, man? You know, and then he's like,
ain't you Christian or whatever,
Christian, you know, and he's like, yo, listen, I'm dressed up like a gangster, but that's the only picture of success that I know in my life because of where I come from, type of thing, you know. And then he's like, but even the pastors that are that dress up in those suits and ties, you forget that dress code was a dress code for the Italian mobs, the gangsters, the drug dealers, the mafias, you know. So,
evil businessmen, white collar, you know,
That was the type of success that we saw. And that's why our pastors back then, even till today, they wear the suits and ties. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Because that was a picture of success that we saw. So like now, we have this thing of where even people with the music, we are so into this thing of tradition, and we even forget that, you know, with the worship music, some of those number of those hymns the traditional hymns that we sing, like the ones that were written by Charles Wesley, John Wesley's brother, a lot of them he got them from pub songs, like from the pub, basically like from the groove.
That's crazy. We're putting groove culture in the church now.
that was the type of groove culture songs that they used to, which is like you see like songs, for example, like Man United song,
Yeah,
Glory, Glory, Man United.
yeah.
It's
I'm a
glory,
Man City fan, by the way,
yeah,
but
whatever, man.
yeah.
And it's like glory, glory, hallelujah,
Yeah,
glory, glory, hallelujah. It's the same thing, you know.
yeah.
And you never walk alone.
But with
The
Liverpool,
Liverpool one.
yeah.
A lot of those songs are like your songs that you'd find in the gospel hymns, and most of those songs that we find as gospel music, as our hymns, our
Yeah,
traditional hymns, most of them came from the pub, you know.
yeah,
So these guys were out there singing in the pub, singing their songs, and then they're changed into gospel music. So like it's like, why are we so fixated in
the,
how
the traditional aspect of
the
things, you
traditional
know.
aspect, and sometimes how we dress things up,
Mm,
whereas we could be I'm focusing on, okay, I see you dressed like this, it's okay,
all right,
but how is your soul, you know?
definitely.
How's your
Yeah.
heart? Are you in a space in your life where you feel like Christ is the one, or are you in a space in your life where you are doubting who Christ could be?
Mm,
You know. So yeah, that's kind of like my thinking towards that whole point.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
I understand it. Yeah.
yeah. And and then after you get to that point, now you've kind of realized that there is something that you're in need of, something that you actually need, that you feel you've got this urge, you've got this hunger.
Okay.
Where does that take you? That feeling, where does that feeling then take you? Where does it lead you to?
The path, right?
Yeah, what, like, how did you get to that path? You know?
Um, to be honest, Nate,
Mm,
just living life, man.
mm,
I lived life. I made my mistakes,
mm,
and I fell back to God when I needed to,
mm,
you
mm,
know?
mm.
And through those situations, I know through prayer, it's
Yeah,
what really led me to those situations where, like, okay, cool, like, speak to yourself, man. Look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, yo, man, like, you can do better.
mm, mm,
There are
mm,
so many people who looked up to you, number one. There are
mm.
so many people who have invested in you
Yeah,
emotionally, like educational wise, everything, you know?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
that kind
yeah.
of like pushes you as a person, like, no, man, I need to do better.
Mm,
You know, I want to see myself be successful, you
yeah,
know, and I do not want to be this failure of so-called haters in the life where
yeah.
everybody has haters, man. You will always
What's your picture of success? Like, what is success to you? You know.
somebody who does not lie to themselves.
Mm,
There's so many people out there who are currently lying to themselves.
yeah, yeah.
You yourself know personally that
Mm,
what I'm doing right now is not it, man.
mm, mm.
I can do better.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
laziness. You know, it's a
Mm,
simple thing of instead of working on something that is productive, you would
mm.
choose to bed rot or be a couch potato, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
that's lying to yourself because you know within you that you can be a better person.
Mm,
You know
mm,
within you that no, I'm able to work on myself and become a better person, but
mm,
you let yourself slack, you know, and then you like look at yourself and you're like, nah, you know what, like a few series won't hurt me.
yeah.
And now all of a sudden you're down 3 seasons and you haven't done anything. You know what I'm talking about, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the point I can make on my side, you
Mm,
know, honestly. Yeah.
okay. And yeah, so you're saying like you want to see yourself successful, and then
Oh yeah, let me answer that question. Yeah.
mm, mm,
So success to me is obviously, like I said, not lying to yourself
mm,
and obviously being honest with yourself in terms of like mistakes will be made.
yeah,
Nobody's
yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
We understand. So
Mm,
as long as you're willing to keep pushing, then it is. But obviously, I feel like it's different to everybody.
mm,
Success to me is being able to take care of myself, being
yeah,
able to take
yeah,
care of my parents.
yeah.
If it happens that God gifts me with children in the future, being able to take care of my children and pass on knowledge that will actually
Mm,
build them to being better people. You know what I'm
the
talking about?
legacy,
You
the
know what I'm
legacy.
talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, to somebody else, success is having millions. To somebody else, it's just
Mm,
having the sports car. it's okay, because I feel like as people, and I feel like a lot in the Christian community, you will look down on somebody who sees success as having a fast car and that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
if
yeah.
that's his version of success, let it be. You know,
Mm,
if my version of success is going to church every single Sunday, becoming a pastor, or whatever
mm,
the case may be, whatever example I can make,
yeah.
that is my version of success. You know,
Mm,
so
okay.
let whatever version of success somebody has, let it be,
Yeah.
because that's
Mm,
their version of success. Because
mm,
I may look down upon you and be like, ah, bro, how can you find comfort in just being a pastor?
mm.
Maybe strive and become a CEO. Not everybody's meant to be a CEO.
Yes,
You
yes,
understand what
yes,
I'm talking
yes.
about? Yeah.
Mm. Right. And then yeah, you began, and when you began the conversation, you spoke a lot about the idea of temptations.
All right.
So when you're looking at temptations, how do you then how did you overcome your temptations, and how did you overcome that lifestyle and find yourself in a space where you're like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna change my lifestyle, and this is
Mhm.
this direction that I want to go. What transpired? Like, what happened for you to get to that point, and how did you just overcome all that? And then,
So a part of it leads to, I could say, the music industry.
mm,
You know,
mm, mm.
I feel like a lot of people don't understand how the music industry can really affect your perception of life,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
because honestly speaking, everybody knows trap music,
yeah,
it leads you down a certain path.
yeah,
You have to be drinking, you have to be smoking, all of these things, you understand, in order
yeah.
for you either to fit in or to look apart,
Mm,
you know.
mm.
And to be honest with you, to be within the music industry, I'm still doing music right now,
Mm.
but I understand it in a different manner,
Okay, okay.
because as you mentioned before, in terms of apparel, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
someone
yeah.
dresses in hip hop because that is what kind of like, they were raised upon,
Yeah,
you understand, like what
yeah.
they looked up on. Um, it doesn't really mean that at the end of the day, because
Mm,
a lot of my generation around the age that we grew up in, especially now teenagers,
yeah,
we grew up a lot around trap music,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and within the trap
I
music,
mean, I mean, yeah. I mean,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
gonna lie, bro. Like it's still lit though, but at the end of the day, it's a lot of the music has given this bad perspective on what the music industry is.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
anybody who gets into the music industry right now, especially a South African young kid,
Mm,
is straight into hip hop.
yeah,
So another part of me is switching genres.
yeah.
There's more to music than just hip hop. There's more to
Mm,
music than just piano. You understand
mm,
what I'm talking
mm.
about? You can literally dive into a genre that speaks to you personally. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
like right now, that's why I respect neo soul as a genre in our country right now so
Mm,
much, because I feel like it is so spiritual. It may not
mm,
be gospel,
mm.
but it's so pure at the end of the
Yeah,
day,
yeah, yeah.
because it really comes from the soul, and it's a
Mm,
genre that is rising in our country right now, and I'm loving it.
mm.
Me myself, I'm diving more into alternative. But for
Okay.
me to dive into those temptations at the time, right,
Mm,
was because I was like, yo man, I'm trying to get into this music thing and I'm trying to be famous now. And I grew up
mm.
around the new wave,
Yeah, the
Jay
new
Marley.
wave.
You
Yeah,
understand what I'm talking
yeah,
about?
yeah,
Like, I grew up in that era where it's like, yo, bro, it's trap parties. We saping every weekend.
yeah,
We smoking up. You
yeah, yeah,
understand?
yeah.
And that leads you down a path because you, as a young kid, you
Mm.
believe, nah, bro, I got control over this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And when you lie to yourself, the whole thing about lying to yourself, you lie to yourself, you're like, nah, bro, I'm not gonna get addicted to this.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
you find yourself 2, 3 years down the line, you're like,
You're
oh
going in strong
snap,
with
like,
your heart, your whole,
and at the end
yeah,
of the day, you
mm.
start off with just smoking something as simple as weed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You smoke weed and you're like, oh, and then you chase higher
Yeah,
highs,
yeah,
and then you find yourself doing things that you shouldn't be doing,
yeah,
and it came down to a moment that I can't say I'll regret for the rest of my life. I'm
mm.
grateful for it because it
Yeah,
changed my path and my perception.
oh, yeah,
I get to a studio session with a few of people, a few of my friends that I was doing music with,
mm.
and I can't necessarily say I was pure pressure. I
Yeah,
personally wanted to experience it because I'm a very adventurous type of person.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
temptation.
mm.
And I'm like, no, man, let me try this out. I
Mm.
tried a drug that I shouldn't have tried out, and it changed it just flipped my life upside down.
Oh yeah.
You understand what I mean? Like, personally speaking, I'm not comfortable with mentioning what drug it is.
Yeah, no.
You
It's all
know,
good. Yeah.
but I tried a drug out that I shouldn't have
Yeah.
from the get-go. And it's
Yeah.
funny because you grow up watching SABC One or whatever the case may be, where they educate you like, no, don't do drugs, kids, and whatever. But when you put in that situation, it's a whole different
It's a whole
story.
different story. Yeah,
You know? And at that current moment, I was very far away from God, man. You know, I wasn't reading my Bible. I wasn't praising and worshiping.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to church. I was just raw dogging it at the end of the day, you know? And I get into a situation, I put myself in a very tough situation. And it gets you thinking like, snap, what did I just do?
What did I get myself into?
What did I get myself into?
Yeah.
You know, and that's the near-death experience I was speaking about. It's part of the temptation I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But to really answer your question more deeply, it's like, I feel like personally, in terms of temptation, right? Temptation never ends. It's just how you deal with it.
Yes.
And that's all goes down to discipline, you know, with your relationship with God. Because
That's true.
as somebody who reads the Bible or praises and worships, at least, you understand exactly what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah.
You personally know that I shouldn't be doing this. Why do I want to do this? Okay, before I make this decision, let me take a step back, have some quiet time, and have a conversation with God and be like, yo, man, like, would he approve of this? Not even would he approve of this. Would I approve of this? Because at the end of the day, it's all about having a relationship with yourself and through you, a relationship with God. You understand? So ask yourself the question, like, why do you want to do this, man? You understand what I'm talking about? So from that, within the music industry, I feel like it has a lot of temptations alone, you know? And getting into the music industry, you need to come in spiritually strong, man. Because there's so many temptations you are going to face in life.
And there's so many other people that just come into your space.
Bro, and it's nothing I was prepared for. You know, there's so many, as our parents would say, there's so many devils out there, you know? There's so many people who come there with the ill intention. You never know, man. They look at your talent and they're like, man, this guy really knows what he's doing. Like, he's very talented. And because he's not as connected to God as you are, he will try his best
to do better
or to make sure that you don't succeed. You know? And that's another thing you need to look at from a different perspective, that any young kid out there who's trying to go into the music industry, it's like, it's not about don't go into music industry, you know? You can go into the Christian genre of it all, Christian rap, you know? That genre is alive and it's thriving, you know? But you can go into all these other genres as well, but it doesn't mean that you need to do what that genre tells you to do. You understand what I'm talking about? You can wrap your mind off, man, and not even touch a cigarette, smoke weed, or drink alcohol. And you can still have the bars that you need. You understand? And that's something that I learned from the experience that I've got within the music industry. As I've grown in the music industry, that you can't narrow your mind or your talent to just one genre. You know, put yourself out there, learn the different genres out there, find out what it is that, you know, find out what connects to you the most, you know. And I've loved the journey. I've loved it, and I'm going to continue to pursue it. Yes, right now I'm working a 9 to 5, you know. I need to find a way to take care of myself. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to pursue what I've loved and what I've told myself that I'm going to pursue. You know, yeah.
Okay. Oh, cool, man. So yeah, and then when you got yourself to that point, then you're like, okay, now these temptations have become too much, and I'm done with this.
Okay.
How would you advise? How would you speak to the young you, regarding such a situation that you could go through? Like, well, how would you guide yourself? Had it been that, you know, you had to speak to yourself after going through what you went through, you know?
What I'd say, right, is that just staying true to myself. Out of everything that I've gone through, right, what I can say is I've always stayed true to who I am. At the end of the day, you know, not doing something that is out of my character. You understand? Because I know what I've been taught from the get-go. I know who I am as a person. But like I said, temptations will always be temptations, you know, and temptations, yes, may sometimes take you out of character, but it's about how you come back, you know. And what I can say is, yes, my relationship with God went astray for quite a long time, right? But I found my way back through praise and worship. So I feel like praise and worship is a very important thing. I'll tell my younger self, like, yo, man, continue to praise and worship, man. Right now, currently, I haven't found a church. I haven't found a church that I feel comfortable with. And what I can say personally to anybody out there is, like, do not force yourself into a space where you do not feel safe at the end of the day.
True,
you know, yes, you do need a church, but don't force yourself for the sake of, I need to be in a church, you know. Put yourself in a position where, like, when you find the church for yourself, you'll find it. But there are so many ways for you as a Christian to be able to continue being in the path of God at home. Reading your Bible, praise and worship. Every single morning, I make sure that I wake up to Christian music, I praise and worship, and I make sure that the Holy Spirit works through me in order for my day to go straight, you know. Because I've had situations where the one day is like, oh man, I'm late today. I don't do praise and worship, and I have such a bad day, bro. I have such a bad day, and then I ask myself, like, why did I have such a bad day, man? And then I'm like, oh, flip, I didn't, you know. So there's so many ways you can still stay connected with God without really going to church. Because one thing that I've always learned is that the church is not the church as a building, but the people, you know. Even if you can call up a few of your chums, man, like, yo, bro, please can you pull up to the crib, man, on a Sunday afternoon? Let's just read the Bible together, do some praise and worship, and just have a conversation about what's going on in life.
You're trying to be holy, man.
What's that?
You're trying to be holier than them.
Hey, yo, man, I feel like it's about how you choose your friends. Like, yes, sure, not every single friend of yours is going to be Christian, but at the end of the day, like, you gotta have a few friends who are spiritually aligned with you in the path that you're taking in life, you know.
That's true.
Yeah, so that's just my take on it, man. That's just my take.
No, then that's I don't know. Is there anything else that you'd like to say or want to put out there?
Not really, man. I'd actually like to find out on your side in terms of, like, how you've been doing, because it's really been a minute since we've linked up, since we've had a proper conversation.
Mine, my guy needs need a cake, tea, everything. Things have been good. There is some other issues that I went through. I can't mention at the moment.
All right.
Because I still need to sort things out. But yeah, I'm gonna tell you more.
All
but
right.
Things have been good, basically, and I've been seeing some kind of growth in my life, and I'm really grateful that I'm in this space.
That's great, man. That's great.
Yeah. It's just life is a challenge on its own, and it's an interesting challenge. You know, the adventures that you go, the things that you go through in life. I take them up as an adventure, and I think it's always good. It's always a test. It's always fun. It's always a whole lot of different things. And if it wasn't for the path that I took in ministry, I think I would have been in a worse situation. The worst situation, basically. But due to that, I took this path. I've been very much aware of my life. I'm very much aware of the people that I hang around with. Very much aware of so many things. And
I can imagine that, because there's a lot of teaching in ministry, right, that can really, like, help you in certain situations in terms of like how to deal with it, you know.
And just by studying people, looking at how people do things or what they do, and you tell yourself that, you know what, I don't want to find myself in this space or in this place. I just want to find myself in a space where I function well, I work well, I've got people that I consult, I've got, there's a whole lot of things that are happening in my life, and I'm very, very much, in a good space. I'm grateful to God for bringing me here, from everything that has been in my life, and to get up to a point where I'm now here, and I feel like, I'm growing, I'm learning new things,
And that's the whole point of life, man.
yeah.
Being able to learn those new
As
things.
abadala would say, funda pheli, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, learning never ends, and we continue to learn. We can continue to grow, and yeah, life's been good. Life's been good.
That's great to hear, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess that's all I have for you. It's I've been talking, and now this thing has actually finished. What is it? The card or the battery? But otherwise, quiet
snap.
conversation with Mel Jackson Pastor. I was here with my boy Sam.
Yo, what's up?
Uncle Sam, aka what's your?
I went by the name of Ben Spear, but I'm
Spear,
Slindeda right now, man.
Slindeda. Okay,
Yeah.
Ben Spear, aka
Slindeda. Yeah.
Slindeda. Hey, I'm rap. But yeah, alright, yeah, my conversation. Mel Jackson Pastor. Yeah, peace.
Hey.